All right, so welcome to week 4. We're going to incorporate those seated postures that are going to incorporate a lot of that forward fold. What you will need to have for your practice today is a strap. If you don't have a strap, I do have some options for you so that you can work around that. And, you know, sometimes if you don't even have the props, I personally believe that the props are helpful, but you can use other tools just with using your body and understanding how your body moves. If you have a hand towel, that will also be very helpful for you. And grab your bottle of water if you don't have one set up already. So we are going to start off on our back again, coming into your corpse pose. You can have your knees bent or have your legs straight out in the traditional or the full version of the posture. So you're going to be all the way on your back with your legs extended out in front of you. And again, if your low back is really starting to tense up in this straight leg variation, you have that option of bending your knees and letting your knees collapse into each other so they just kind of rest in that place. So you're not having to use so much support with your legs. So you're going to bring your legs out in front of you. We're going to go through that rotation. I want you to turn the toes in towards each other and then rotate the toes away and rotate the toes in, just feeling this rotation happening from the hip joint. Toes turn in and they rotate apart. They rotate in towards each other and they turn out and away. Let the toes turn out and away, and then just let them rest here, please. Good. And then walk the shoulder blades underneath you, setting up your spine so it feels more at ease. And then bring your arms down by your sides, palms turn facing up, and the fingertips curling in naturally towards your palms. Lift your head up about an inch and just place it back down. And see if you can allow the head and neck to remain free. And closing the eyes, relaxing the mouth and jaw. And breathing into your belly, your chest, your low throat. And for the lecture portion of this class on Thursday, or your online platform Thursday, we'll be going through an overview of the breath. Some of the general mechanics of the breath, but a lot of the benefits of breathing and the symbolism behind the breath. And as you continue to breathe, I just want you to notice any parts of your body as you are breathing into those places. If they feel a little sticky, maybe the space between the ribs, the intercostals are opening and contracting like you would imagine them to. Maybe you feel that it's the low back that feels a little bit stuck and bound. Maybe it's the neck. And when we do breathe, we feel this full expansion across the belly, the sideways, the low back. It rises up into the rib cage and into that low throat, but it pretty much will ripple all throughout the entire body. So see if you can imagine the breath coming from the soles of your feet, washing all the way up the body. And as you exhale, feeling the breath pour all the way down your low back, your bottom, the backside of your legs to your heel. And just go through a few more of those rounds, breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in. And then breathing out. Good. Last breath. Good. With your next in-breath, stretch the hands up towards the sky and reach the fingertips all the way up and back behind you, lengthening out as if you were on a stretcher, being pulled by your hands and feet in opposite directions. Big reach. Good. And then exhale, release with a sigh. Bring the arms down by your sides and then take both knees into your chest. Good. Rock the body side to side, massaging into your low back. Good. And then carefully, you're going to place both feet onto the floor. All right. Tuck your right knee in towards your chest, keeping the knee bent. Your left foot stays on the floor. Wrap your hands around the back of the thigh. So we're just going to keep the hands around the back of the thigh. We're going to go through some kicks up in the air. So I want you to reach through the heels, so not the toes or the top of the foot, but imagine that you're reaching from the back of the leg upwards, kicking the heel all the way up towards the sky as much as it'll let you go. It doesn't have to be completely straight. Good. And then bending the knee. Good. Extending the heel back up towards the sky. Ooh. And bending the knee. Your hands being on along the back of the thigh provide a little bit of that resistance. Good. Kick through that heel. Reach, 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 reach. Good. Toes pull back towards your shin. Good. And especially that little pinky toe. So imagine that you're holding your ceiling up by your foot. Good. And then bend the knee. Good. This time you're going to kick the heel back up towards the ceiling. We're going to play with a little bit of that rotation in our hip joint. So with the toes, imagine that the toes are going in 12 o'clock position right now. So the knee and the toes are pointed towards straight back behind you. And now I want you to rotate the toes towards 1 o'clock and then a little bit more towards 2 o'clock. Okay, this is called external rotation. We're just turning the same way that we did on our back and then rotate the toes back towards 12 o'clock. Good. Again, to 1 o'clock and then 2 o'clock. Good. And then rotate back towards 12. And then one more time to 1 o'clock and then 2 o'clock and then back in towards 12. Bend your knee fully. Keep the knee tucked in. Send your left heel straight out in front of you. Flex through your left foot, so the left toes pull back towards your shin, the toes point straight up again, and then feel that the back of your left heel is pressing into the floor. So the back of your heel would be the part where your spur would be on your boot. So keep that right knee hugged in. Make a big circle with your right ankle. Circle around in the other direction. And then bring the foot back to stillness. All right, that same idea of working through those heel kicks. I want you to flex through the foot, reach the heel back up towards the ceiling. Again, it may or may not go. As you can see, my leg is not going all the way straight. I'm pretty sore from yesterday. Go ahead and bend the knee. And then reaching up through the heel. Good, bend the knee. And one more time, reaching up through that heel. Good. Bend the knee fully. We're going to take the knee across the body into the twist. So the knee is going over towards the left. Right arm reaches in the opposite direction. This time I want you to focus on keeping your right shoulder heavy. So placing that right shoulder, anchoring it into the ground. That right arm reaches wide with the palm facing up. With that palm facing up on that right hand, see if you can push the top of the hand into the ground. So that's the back side of the hand, what I refer to as the dark meat side. Good. The more that you press into that, the more leverage you're going to feel with this right knee going across the body. Good. Another full breath in here. Good. Inhale, return back to center. Exhale, place your right foot on the floor so your knee is still bent, and then tuck your left knee in towards your chest. Scoop the hands around the back of your left leg. Good. And then flex through your left heel. We're going to go through those kicks with the bent knee, with the opposite bent knee. So reaching through the heel, lengthen the heel up towards the sky, and bend the knee. And then reaching back up. Good. And back down. Just breathe normally here. You don't have to have any type of pattern, although if you'd like to adopt a pattern, you certainly can. I like to typically exhale as I extend. Good. And inhale as you bend. Good. Reaching up through that heel. Oh. Flexing that foot, toes pull back towards the shin, and then bending the knee. Good. We're going to go through those turns from the hip joint. So pull the toes back towards the shin. Your toes are in 12 o'clock position. And because we're working with the left leg, we're going to be going counterclockwise. So rotate your toes towards 11 o'clock and then towards 10 o'clock. So again, this is happening from that hip joint. Rotate back to 12 o'clock again, and then 11 and to 10 o'clock. This is still external rotation, even though it's going in the opposite direction. Go into 11 o'clock and then 12 o'clock, rotating from that hip joint. Good. And then back to 12 o'clock. Tuck the knee back in towards your body. Good. Now, I want you to extend your right heel straight out in front of you. And then give your left ankle some circles here. So you're in your wind releasing pose, circling out your left ankle, and then circle around the other direction. Good. Bring the foot and ankle back into stillness. You're still holding on to the back of your left leg. Back of your right leg is pressing into the floor. We're going to go through a few more of those kicks, reaching up through that left heel. Good. And bending the knee. Reaching up through the left heel, and see if you can keep that 12 o'clock turn of the toes. Good. Bending the knee. Reaching up through that heel, keeping your knee and your toes going in 12 o'clock and bending the knee. Good. One more time, reaching up through the heel, lengthening up, ooh, and bending that knee fully. Good. Take the knee now across the body into the twist. Left arm reaches wide. Reach the knee all the way over to the opposite side. And then you're using that right hand to encourage the leg down. We're not trying to force it down, just guiding it carefully. Good. And then you can keep a little bit of space in that left side waist. Sometimes I like to bring the heel of my right hand to the top of my hip. So right into that thigh. I'm going to push my thigh away from me so it goes in the direction of my feet. So when that happens is I create all of that space along the side body and the side waistline, and I give myself that opportunity to feel opening and not to feel so compressed and bound up. Good. Another full breath in here. Wonderful. Inhale and return back to center. Exhale, take both knees into your body, wrap the arms around either back of the thighs or front of the shins, and walk your hips side to side, massaging out the low back as you rock. Good. Carefully place both feet onto the mat, and then bring your feet to about hip distance apart. So remembering that we start off with the big toes and the heels touching, and then we separate the heels apart, and then pivoting from the heels, the toes turn to face forward. And so now the toes are in that 12 o'clock position, or as if they're parallel and standing on train tracks. We go through some pelvic tilts here. So inhale to 6 o'clock tilt, arching through that low back as you dig your tail heavily to the floor. Exhale to 12. Good. Low back presses down. Pubic bone reaches up as it closes the space between your navel and your pubic bone. Inhale, opening up. You're going to feel a little bit more of that stretch between the ribs and the pubic bone. And then exhale as it shortens and comes back in. Good. Inhale, 6 o'clock. Exhale, 12 o'clock. Inhale, 6. Exhale, 12. Inhale, 6 o'clock. Exhale, 12. Inhale, 6 o'clock. And exhale, 12 o'clock. Good. Now we're going to incorporate a little bit more of that movement like we found in the last practice with the bridge lift. I want you to inhale to your 6 o'clock. We're going to change this one up a little bit more. Exhale to 12 o'clock. Press down through your feet. Roll the spine all the way up with your exhalation, drilling your heels into the floor. And then inhale at the very top here. Exhale, roll the spine down one vertebra at a time. If you get that low back to touch down, and then inhale to 6 o'clock tilt. Exhale, 12 o'clock tilt, press down to the feet, roll the spine up. Inhale at the top, keep your inner thighs squeezing, and then exhale, roll the spine all the way back down. Inhale to 6 o'clock. Exhale, 12, rolling up. See if you can work that spine through each of the vertebrae, and then inhale at the top. Exhale, rolling the spine all the way back down. Inhale, 6. Last one, exhale, 12 o'clock tilt, scooping through the pelvis. Reach up through that pubic bone as you roll the spine all the way back up again. Inhale here. And then exhale, rolling the spine back down till you get that low back and mid back to touch down. I know that's the sticky part for me. And then inhale to your 6 o'clock. Exhale, coming back to that neutral position of your pelvis. Good. Tuck both knees in towards your chest. Wrap the hands around and then rock side to side. Wonderful. All right, tip over to your left side. We're going to make our way up to seated, pressing your hand into the floor. Extend your top leg away from you. Slowly start to lift yourself up. We're going to come to our seated position. All right, so in your seated position, we're going to work through a few new options today. So you're going to have your either the ankle with one foot in front of the other, one ankle in front of the other, where the knees are really wide. You can also do this with your feet a little bit more narrow, but we're going to work into those pelvic tilts in this seated position. So I want you to see this from the side, that as we're moving into these pelvic tilts, we're going to feel that the sit bones, which is directly underneath our body, you can actually touch it right now. You can feel that you have a sit bone there. This is actually part of your pelvis known as the ischial tuberosity, in case you just want to know. But with this sit bone, it's a rounded bone, and you can rock to the front of your sit bones, and you can see that I've got this arch in my back and spine, and then you can also rock back. Okay, so you're sitting on the back of the sit bones. We're going to go through that transition, just feeling that rocking, so the pelvis can move in that direction in a seated position, just like we were doing on our back. So I want you to place your hands on your knees. We're going to utilize our arms and our hands to help us with the rest of the spine. So with the hands on the knees, see if you can wrap the fingertips to the front of the shins. You can kind of see here, right at the front of the shin, right where the shin and the knee meet. Okay, and you're going to rock to 6 o'clock tilt. So rock to the front of your pelvis, pubic bone reaches down towards the ground. Good. Press into your hands and lift your chest up and through. So you're finding that yourself in this big back bend here. Good. Exhale. Scoop your tail under. Lean back. Now your hands are going to be there for support so you don't fall back. Okay. And now see if you can get that low back as if somebody's grabbing their arms around your waistline and is pulling you back. See if you can really scoop and tuck. Look at your belly button. Round back. Good. Rock forward again to 6 o'clock tilt. Inhaling. Pressing into the hands and shins, lifting the chest up. Exhale, rounding the spine, tucking the tail back and under, low back reaches away from you. Inhale, rocking forward, lifting yourself up. Shoulder blades squeeze together as you press your hands back. Good. Exhale, round the spine, rounding back. Nice. Inhale, lifting up. See if you can create this length upwards as well. So you're pushing down into the sit bones, especially the front of the sit bones, to lift up. Good. And then exhale, round the spine, leaning back. Good. Inhale, lifting up. And exhale, leaning back. And inhale, lifting up. Exhale, leaning back. Good. Inhale, lifting up without going forward. So you're in a neutral pelvis. We're going to change the feet out. So opposite foot in front. And this time, we're going to use a little bit of that front and back tilting, but we're going to go through the full circle here. So I've been told that these are called Sufi rolls, S-U-F-I. Not to be confused with sushi rolls if you're hungry. Okay, so with these, we're going to rock the pelvis forward, and then we're going to dip the chest down as low as we'll go. You're going to feel that you're in that full 6 o'clock tilt. And I want you to circle your belly button over towards your right knee. I'm mirroring you right now. You're going to lean back and find that 12 o'clock position, and then circle the belly button over towards the left knee, and then all the way back down. Okay, good. Exhaling as you go back. As you come from that 12 o'clock, start to find your inhalation forward. Exhaling across and around. And these are one of my favorite exercises, especially to get into that low back and side waist. Feels like those can be really difficult areas to access. Good. Let's go through one more circle in this direction. And then change directions if you haven't already. And some of you might be feeling this in your groin, especially as you're going forward. We're just trying to open up the hip joint, and this is going to be a key element, especially for opening up our low back and our hamstring, because those are where they connect, the pelvis. So the sit bones are where we find the hamstrings connecting, and the low back connects to all of the sacrum, the tail, branches across the gluteals. Good. All right. Coming back in through your 6 o'clock tilt of your pelvis, start to lift yourself all the way upright. See if you can find that neutral pelvis again, upright. Good. And then bring your fingertips to the floor beside you, pressing down with your hands. Inhale, you're going to circle the arms out and up. So flip the palms to face up. Big circle up towards the sky. Exhale, bring your hands down towards your chest. See if you can reach your elbows towards the floor. When you do that, you start to see that your shoulders move down and away from your neck. Inhale, reach the arms back up. Exhale, circle the arms wide down and around. And just like you're pushing through our elbows down to the ground, I want you to press through your fingers down towards the ground. So you feel your shoulders drop. Inhale, reach the arms up again. Exhale, hands to your heart. Elbows press down. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, circling the arms wide and down and touching the fingertips into the ground. Inhale, bring the arms up again. Exhale, hands to your heart, reaching elbows towards the ground, especially to help with that very last point. Good, and then inhale, lifting up. Exhale, circle the arms wide, down and around. Good, fingertips touch down to the ground. Okay, so we're going to utilize a lot of that information that we just learned with our shoulders pressing down. So anytime that we reach through our arms, our elbows, our wrists, and our hands towards the ground, we're going to feel how our shoulder blades depress. And it's going to be important, especially through our forward folds, because sometimes we get this tendency to round and scrunch up our shoulders as we're reaching forward. And we want to create that mountain pose-like template, right, to find that opening and length, even as we're folding forward. Okay? All right, let's make our way onto our hands and knees. You can roll over your feet, or you can swing your legs off to one side, and we're going to make our way there. Robin, that's my bad habit too. All right, and if you need your towel for your knees for our tabletop position, feel free to grab one, roll it up. Good. And then hands come directly underneath you. Fingertips are spread, gripping them down into the ground. And then the knees are directly underneath you with the tops of the feet on the floor. Take a peek between your legs. Make sure your feet disappear there. Then come back to that neutral position again. We're going to go through our cat-cow. So finding your 6 o'clock tilt into our cow. Inhale, tail flips up, belly comes down, heart shines forward, looking out in front of you. Exhale, 12 o'clock tilt, round the spine. Press into your hands, knees, and shins as you look up at your belly button. Inhale, open up. Finding your 6 o'clock tilt, arch the back. Exhale, round the spine into your cat. Inhale, open up, cow. And exhale, round the spine into your cat. Good. Inhale, open up. Exhale, round the spine. See if you can feel this, especially in the low back. Good. So you're using your abdominals to help lift the low back. Inhale. Now find your cow pose in your upper back. So your shoulder blades kind of knitting together. Exhale, round the spine again, cat. And inhale to a neutral position. Sit back into your child's pose. Hips sink back on top of your heels. Forehead comes down to the mat. And just find a moment to rest. You'll still want to feel your big toes touching, regardless of if you have your knees apart or together. And as you're breathing in your child's pose for the next moment or two, I want you to see if you can feel that the breath is moving into your low back. So in this tucked position, it's rather difficult to breathe through the front of the body into the belly and the front of the chest. And that we have to find the breath in other areas, especially the deeper portions of the breath. So see if you can feel it in your low back, your side waist, even right between the shoulder blades. See if you can direct the breath there in this folded position, because we're going to be using that same type of idea for our seated forward folds. And maybe we're not able to bury our face into our legs and our seated forward folds just yet, but you're going to feel similar compression of the front of the body as you're in that fold or flexion. So just trying to practice that in a more neutral or rested position here. Good. Let's make our way back into our cat and cow, and we're going to transition between our cat and cows into our child's pose. So this is going to be a little bit of a movement in between the two. It's going to be a forward and backward motion. So from your child's pose, separate your knees a little bit wider. You're going to inhale up onto your hands and knees, and then come right into your cow pose. Good. Exhale, round into your cat, and as you do, start to guide your hips back until your hips sink down onto your heels and you're in your child's pose. Inhale, press into your knees, come forward into your cow, put the tail and crown up. Exhale, round the spine into cat, and then move the hips back so you're sitting back into your child's pose. Inhale, come forward into your cow pose. Tail flips up, heart is forward. Exhale, round the spine into cat, and then slide those hips back into child's pose. Let's go through a few more rounds on your own, just noticing how that feels in your body. I know when I was pregnant both times that my low back was just against me. And it felt super bound up and tight. And this was the only exercise that I could actually feel a good stretch in my back, especially as I got bigger towards the end. And it still to this day feels like such an amazing stretch in that low back area. Good. Last breath here. And then settling back into your child's pose. Once you made your way there, we're going to walk our hands over to the right, coming them off the mat, and then leaning into your left side body. Head stays down. Walk the hands over towards the left side now, and then lean over to your right side body, putting a little bit more weight of your pelvis onto your right heel. Head comes down in between your arms. Good, full breaths here. Good, walk the hands back in through center, and then all the way back in towards your body. We're going to do a little bit of a quadricep or thigh stretch just to kind of counter all of that folding that we've been doing. And this is going to be just really healthy for the front part of the body. If this is problematic for you, do the best that you can, especially if sitting back on top of your heels is, or on top of your feet is a little bit taxing. What you can do is you can get a block and you wedge it between your legs and you can sit on that. Even a big heavy book, if you've got like a big textbook, you can utilize that and then place that right between. We're going to walk our hands behind us. And I want you to see if you can give yourself plenty of space, a good hands distance apart from your feet. You're going to either have your fingertips facing forward or turned out wide to the side. You're going to press down into your hands, your knees, and your shins, and see if you can lift your bottom up off of your feet. Good. So we're not going to be here for that much longer. I just want you to feel a good stretch across the thighs. Good. The front of the hip flexors, maybe feeling it in the chest. You can even tip your chin up and back. Good. Looking forward, lower the hips down, walk the hands out in front of you. We're going to make our way up onto our feet and come up to standing. So plant the feet on the floor and make your way all the way up to stand. Good. Okay, so in our mountain pose, we're going to make our way through some spinal rolls that are going to help to also free up that low back, but then also accessing those hamstrings. And some of the important things that we start to learn about when we access our hamstrings is that it's okay to bend our knees, okay? And there is no law in yoga that says you cannot bend your knees if you want to touch your toes, okay? I know that a lot of us want to be able to touch our toes with straight legs, but it really starts to help when we bend our knees a little bit so that we can find that hinging from the hip joint first and then start to work towards a straighter leg. Okay, so I want you just to watch this for a moment before you practice on your own, just to see what the movement is going to be looking like. So I'm going to start off in my mountain pose. My feet are directly underneath me. My arms are down by my sides and the fingertips lengthening towards the ground. Good. From here, I'm going to take a full breath in and I'm going to exhale, nodding the head down towards the chest. I'm going to round the shoulders forward. Want the fingertips to reach down towards the ground. You're going to notice right here that I'm in this cat stretch pose, right? My spine looks like I'm in cat pose, and I actually bent my knees, okay? This is going to give me a little bit more of that stretch. I'm going to hinge from the hips, bring my belly to my thighs. My weight is forward in my toes, and my head eventually comes down too. Okay, I'm going to inhale here. I'm going to exhale. I'm going to slowly start to lift up, rolling myself up to stand, and then bring my head up flat. Okay, so we're going to continue through those a few rounds. What I really want you to feel is that when we start to get into that rounding forward, okay, that when you feel that your back can no longer stretch anymore, you're going to bend your knees. And then you're going to hinge from the hips. So this is the hinging of the hips to access the belly coming to the thighs. And then keeping my sit bones high, okay, that I'm not dropping down here, but I'm still lengthening up towards the sky with my hips, okay? And then the rolling up. Eventually your legs will straighten out when you come into your mountain pose, okay? So let's go ahead and go through this together. Coming to your mountain pose, standing either at the top of your mat or the center of your mat. I want you to feel your toes facing forward, that all four corners of your feet are touching down into the ground. You can lift up on your toes to feel that, and then release the toes back down. Good. Feel the inner thighs squeeze, the calves firm apart, the navel pulls down and in towards your spine. Good. Your gaze is forward and your chin is parallel to the ground. Take a full breath in. Exhale, nod your chin to your chest. Start to round your shoulders forward. The fingertips touch towards or reach towards the ground as you bend your knees and slowly hinge from your hips and bring your belly to your thighs. Keep your knees positioned over your ankles. So sometimes those knees want to splay wide. See if you can press down through all four corners of those feet. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale, you're going to roll yourself up to stand. Slowly pulling up, keeping your gaze at your navel until your shoulders are over your hips, and then you gaze forward. Inhale at the top. Exhale, nod the head down, round through the spine, tucking through your tail, hinging from the hips as you slowly bring belly to thighs. Weight is still forward in your toes. Inhale at the bottom. Exhale, roll yourself all the way up to stand. Inhale at the top. Exhale, rolling back down, chin to chest, rounding. Good. Nice, Michelle. Nice, Carla. Good job. Inhale at the bottom. Let your head hang free. Exhale, rolling yourself up. Good. All right. We're going to do this one more time. Inhale. Exhale. Nod the head down. Round through the upper body. Tuck through that tail. Slowly taking it down. Inhale. And then exhale. Slowly make your way back up. Good. Take your time coming up. And we're going to do a half version. Inhale here. Exhale. Round the chin down towards the chest. Tuck the shoulders forward. Get into that low back as you hinge. Feel that big stretch in the back of your legs. With the fingertips come down to the floor. Good. And with that weight forward, so see if you can turn that weight forward so you feel like you're going to tip forward. I want you to bend your knees and try to keep your heels down on the floor for as long as possible. Okay, so your heels may pop up at some point. That's okay. See if you can just work towards that stretch in your calves and ankles so that you're feeling still that weight leaning forward. Good. This is called a ball squat. It's a very narrow squat compared to a wide version of a squat. Good, and we're going to make our way onto our seat. And as we do so, try not to fall. And if you do happen to fall, it's okay. Just laugh at yourself. Coming down. Okay, so let's work on our seated forward folding position. So with our seated forward folds, I want you to start out. This one is called head to knee pose. It's more of a descriptor of what is happening in the posture as opposed to the goal of the pose. Okay, so the goal is not to, oh, well, I'm not doing the pose if I'm not bringing my head to my knee. It's the description of, well, I'm bringing, it looks like somebody's bringing their head to their knee. Okay, so let's bring our left leg out in front of us. You're going to tuck your right foot in to the inner left thigh. Okay, your knee is going to be out towards the side, but you can see that my knee is not out wide so that it's all the way out into that 90-degree angle with the groin. Okay, I still want to keep my foot on my inner thigh. As I'm seated here, you're going to notice that your belly button points towards the center of your leg. I want you to bring your belly button to turn towards your left leg. Okay. Notice that difference that we found earlier when we were on our back and we were turning our legs and externally rotating them. We want to keep our toes at 12 o'clock. Okay, so left toes stay at 12 o'clock as opposed to going to 11 and 10 o'clock. Okay, so keeping those toes turned all the way up, belly button turns towards the leg. Okay, we're going to inhale and bring the arms up towards the sky. Good. Exhale. Start to lean into a 6 o'clock tilt of your pelvis. Woo. And then slowly start to bring your hands, float them down towards the ground. All right. You might be like, oh, geez, I am feeling this right now. Yes, I'm nodding. All right. Work at your 80% of your capacity unless your body is telling you even 80% is too much for me right now. If you need to, walk your hands back in a little bit closer. Okay, so you don't have to go all the way down. Again, the goal of the pose is not to bring your head to your knee. The goal of the pose is to feel the stretch and to be in your body. Okay, so with your hands on the ground, as we learned earlier, it's important that we keep our shoulders away from our ears. So press down into your hands, see if you can lift up through your chest, and then start to lean forward, reaching your elbows, maybe even bending those elbows a little bit, and reaching the elbows towards the floor. Good. All right, so I'm going to clue you in on a little helpful technique, especially if you're finding that belly coming to the thigh is pretty, far away, and you're rounding through your upper back and low back a lot. So we're going to bend our left knee. Okay. Now, see if you can come into that 6 o'clock tilt. Maybe your belly is actually touching onto your thigh here. Then continue to bring your hands forward and down. Okay. The distance of where your knee is to the floor depends on where you are each day. So you can close that distance. I would recommend bringing your belly to your thigh first and then straightening out the leg to the place that feels best for you, okay, before you would, try to lift it up higher and such and find that place. So finding this, belly on the thigh, navel towards your toes, and then starting to reach that heel out in front of you. Good. Let's see if we can take 3 more of your deepest breaths here. And as you're breathing in, relax your jaw, create some space between those top and bottom teeth. Good. See if you can keep your shoulder blades down away from your ears by reaching your elbows towards the ground. And reminding yourself that you're not going to stay stuck in this pose forever. And sometimes that's really relieving, right? And when we're in these really intense situations, it's very common for us to feel like, oh God, this is never going to end. I'm never going to be able to get out of this pain, this discomfort, this intensity. And it's important to know that most of the time these things change, okay? That they shift and they move and they mold themselves into completely different situations. So know that within this posture, we will release, which we're going to do right now. All right, so slowly walk your hands back in towards your body, lifting yourself up. All right, we're going to switch the legs out. Right leg reaches forward, and the left leg is going to tuck in. The foot is going to be along the inside of that right leg, that right foot straight out in front of us. Again, we're still in that 12 o'clock position with the leg. The toes are not turning out to the sides, and my leg is not out wide either. I want it straight out in front of me. All right. You have your option again if you wanted to bend the knee and work from that position, belly on the thigh as you reach forward, okay, and straightening out the leg. If you want to work with a straight leg and your body has enough flexibility for that, work with that. All right, so either way, you can walk your fingertips forward, or if you prefer, hands reaching up, and then tipping into that 6 o'clock tilt of your pelvis, rounding forward as your belly comes to your thigh first. Good. Shoulders move down and away from your neck. Michelle, it could be the angle of the camera, but is your left knee out really wide? You can nod. Try not to do as wide. There we go. And then turn your belly button towards that leg. Yeah. Good. Does that feel better? You can nod yes or no. Okay, good. Good. So notice a tendency for the mind to drift off. I know this is a common place for people to play with their toenail polish. If you don't have toenail polish, they just play with their feet and their toes or whatever ends up on their mat. Okay, close your eyes. Take a full breath and see if you can feel breath in your low back, mid back, upper back, and then exhale, ease the breath out. Imagine your breath like a wave, washing up your back body and exhaling it all the way out. Good. A few more deep breaths here. And keeping with that slow, steady breath, seeing if that breath can lengthen as you continue on with it. So each breath becoming longer than the last. Just like we experienced with the last pose, this too shall pass. So let's inhale, reach your hands forward or walk your hands up the legs, lift up, and exhale, release from the posture. All right, so that was head to knee pose. Again, just describing what was happening. We only had one leg forward and the other leg was kind of tucked into this almost butterfly-like shape. Okay, so next posture is pretty descriptive. It's called seated forward fold. Okay, the Sanskrit name for it is Paschimottanasana. You won't need to know that. All right, so for your seated forward fold, this might be an opportunity for you to grab your strap. You can actually use your strap in that head to knee pose that we did before, but chances are with that knee bent, it kind of gives you a little bit more of that flexibility. All right, so when we're using our strap, there are some, I don't like to say right and wrong, but very effective ways and more efficient ways of doing things than others. Okay, so there are more effective ways of using your strap altogether. And when we place our strap along our feet, sometimes the tendency is where we have the strap along the arch of the feet and the toes can kind of round forward and the ankle doesn't remain very stiff. Okay, we actually want to secure the ankle into one position, which would be that 90-degree angle. Okay, so to help with that, we're going to bring the strap up a little bit higher so it's along the ball of the foot and the knuckle of the pinky toe. Okay, ball of the foot and knuckle of the pinky toe across the board on both sides. Okay, so what that does is as you pull back on the strap, you keep your feet locked into that 90-degree angle. Okay, so you can see this from the side. I don't want it here. I want it more so up here. Okay, and what to do with the arms and the placement of this. Think of the strap as just an extension of your fingers. Okay, it's just trying to bridge the gap between you and your toes. You're not trying to use it all the way back up here. Okay, this is not going to do very much for your flexibility. And eventually, you're not going to want to use the strap, especially if you're able to touch your toes with your arms and your legs straight out. You're going to reach from as far as you can into the posture. So you're choking up on the strap with the elbows straight. Okay, elbows straight. And you just keep walking those fingertips up towards the toes. And you're going to lift up and then bend your elbows to get a little bit deeper into the stretch. Okay, so that's how you properly or more efficiently use a strap. If you're up here, you're not really doing very much. And yes, you might be able to experience a little bit of a stretch, but sometimes it lends itself to that tendency to kind of lean back. And this is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a folded position as opposed to pulling the legs up towards us. Okay, you can utilize the strap if you have one. If you don't have a strap and you still have really tight hamstrings, or as I call hamstrings made of beef jerky, if you have those beef jerky hamstrings, you can always bend your knees. Okay, so bending those knees is that nice little trick that you can do, and the yoga police are not going to come and arrest you if you keep your knees bent and you try to grab a hold of your toes. Okay, so you can bend your knees, bring your belly towards your thighs, and then grab a hold of whatever is there. Maybe it's the ankles and calves that you're able to grab onto, or the outsides of the feet. Again, keeping your toes turned up towards that 12 o'clock position here. Okay, if you have the flexibility, okay, to keep your knees straight, you can work into the posture as we did earlier, lifting up through the arms, reaching forward. Notice my belly is on my thighs, and then I grab onto whatever is there. But the key is belly on the thighs, because this is the flexion that we're looking for, the hinging from the hips. Good. So play around with whatever tools and tips that you'd like to have, and work what works best for you. Again, every single day, we're going to be presented with different opportunities with our body and how flexible we're feeling, how sore we're feeling, if we have an injury we're nursing, the energy levels, etc. All right. So as you're grabbing a hold of whatever is there, keep in mind what's happening with your shoulders. You might even notice my shoulders are up a little bit higher too. So I want you to draw your elbows towards the ground and then slide your elbows back towards you. It almost feels like they're being pulled back into socket, okay? They're sliding onto the back. This keeps the collarbones nice and wide, and then you can let the head come down. There's going to be a little bit of rounding because we are in this folded position, but we don't want to have it where we're wearing our shoulders for earrings. Good. And then as you're in the position, again, we're breathing slowly, seeing if we can breathe into our back body. When we're reaching over, why should we not have our shoulders up in our ears? So when we are reaching forward, what the tendency is for that is that the shoulders coming up to our ears kind of compresses a lot of our capacity to breathe. And if we get into this rounded position, it's very difficult to feel length in our body, and especially through the front of the body. So if we have our shoulders sliding down away from ourselves, then we can create a little bit more space into the front body, and we can breathe a little bit longer into the torso. Good question. Good. Let's take another full breath in here. Good. Wherever you are, if you have a strap around your feet, if you have bent knees and your hands around your ankles or shins, I want you to reach your hands forward and then come up with as flat of a back as possible, lifting up as tall as you can, and then exhale, release. Good. Now we're going to turn sideways on our mat and then bring your legs out into a V shape. Okay, so this next posture is known as seated wide leg forward fold. Very descriptive, just like the last one. We're seated, we've got wide legs, and we're going to fold forward, maybe. And then the width of our legs depends on our flexibility. And you probably don't want to be coming into as much of a middle split position. You certainly can, but I want you to feel where the pelvis is going to start to rotate forward. So you're hinging at the hip and you're coming into that 6 o'clock tilt. And if we have our legs super wide like that position, it tends to be a little bit harder for us to find that tilting of the pelvis, okay? So no more than 90 degrees if possible. And most likely, if you're noticing that you're having trouble with keeping your pelvis in that 90 degrees and that upright position, I would suggest either closing your legs in a little bit closer to each other. You can also give yourself a little bit of a bend, but I'd actually prefer a little bit more of the legs closing in, okay? So just enough so that you can actually reach your pelvis and then turn the pelvis to reach forward. Some of you may be mostly upright, okay? So mostly in this position, and you have like a little bit of a lean, okay? As long as you're feeling a stretch here, that's what we're looking for, okay? When you're turned sideways on your mat, we do this because we want to give our heels, or the back of our heels, something cushiony to rest on. So if you don't have very comfortable floors, as you can see them on cement, but if you also have hardwood floors or tile that you're working on right now, and you don't have the luxury of a nice plush carpet, this would be an opportunity for you to kind of give yourself that extra cushion. So it is not necessary, but it's just a personal preference. And most yoga studios tend to be hardwood floors. And so we just turn sideways so that we can get that protection for the ankles and the heels. Okay, so in our seated wide leg forward fold, I want you to feel like your pelvis can go towards that 6 o'clock tilt. You're going to walk your hands down towards your legs, draw the shoulders down and away from your ears, And then lift up with the center of your chest, almost like we were doing in that seated forward fold earlier, or sorry, the seated cross-legged version. We're kind of tipping forward and lifting the chest up as we press into our knees. I want you to feel like you're pressing into your legs and then tipping forward with your chest. Like you want to bring your belly button towards the floor. So working towards the level that feels appropriate for you, okay? And it can be an 80% of your capacity, even a 60%, especially if you need to take it easy for any particular reason. But giving yourself that time to breathe and relax. When we add the element of not only getting into our hamstrings, but also working into the groin and the adductor muscles, it can add a bit of intensity for us. And it's important that we find relaxation in other parts of our body too. So shoulders remain loose, mouth and face are smooth. Good. And then seeing if you can adopt a slow and rhythmic breath. And as you continue to breathe here, you may start to notice that the intensity is lessening. There's a saying that as we start the practice of yoga and any postures, etc., at first we just endure the poses. We just endure them and just try to get through them as best as we can. And then we start to accept them and we start noticing like it is what it is. It might be tight, but you know, the sensation is not as bad as it used to be. Or our boundaries have changed with that. And then we learn to enjoy the pose. We enjoy the discomfort, the sensation that we're feeling in the posture. So it does take a little bit of time to get from each level, from endurance to acceptance to the enjoyment of the posture. But know that eventually these poses do progress as you continue on to practice them. So another full breath in here. And deep breath out. Good. Walk the hands in. Good. Scoop the hands to the back of your knees. Try to come out of it by leaning back and drawing those legs together. Ooh. Good. Spin around towards the front edge of your mat, keeping your knees still bent. And I want you to bring your knees together, your ankles to touch. Wrap your left hand around your legs and shin. So your hand is by your right knee. And then take your right fingertips behind you. I don't want the hand to be so far away that you're leaning back. In fact, see if you can bring it a little bit closer to the pelvis. Press down, lift up, and then turn to look over your right shoulder. Good. Inhale, rotate your chest through center, switch the legs out, or the hands out. The right arm is wrapped around the legs, left fingertips behind you, and then twisting in the opposite direction. Good. Then inhale, rotate back in through center. Slide your bottom closer to your heels. Scoop the hands to the back of your thighs. I want you to round your low back, so you're going into that 12 o'clock tilt, and then lean back so much that your elbows become straight. Okay, your feet stay heavy on the ground. Your belly button is pulling in towards your spine. Good. Now take your right hand up, off of your leg, wiggle your fingers. Yeah, and then take your right hand back onto the leg. And then left hand comes off the leg, wiggle your fingers. Good. Left hand back on the leg. both hands, wave, hello. Good, hands on the leg again. Woo-hoo-hoo. Good, we're gonna do it again. Hi. Good, hands on the legs, and then you're all done. Go ahead and lower all the way down onto your back. Take your knees into your chest, wrap the hands around, rock side to side. Sometimes I like to sneak in a little bit of core work for you. You're welcome. Good. Keeping the knees tucked into the chest. I want you to send the arms out wide into a T shape, palms facing up, shoulders stay heavy. Tip the knees over to the right. Let the feet fall down towards the ground as well. And then turn to look over your left shoulder. Good. Full breath into that left lung. Good. And then lifting the knees up through center. I want you to lift the knees by lifting up with your right knee. That's the bottom knee. Pull the knees up through center. Good. Exhale, take the knees over to the left. Good. And look out over your right fingertips. Now your knees may not stay together. That's okay. Eventually, over time, as your low back and your hips start to release, that you might find that the knees do come together. Good. And then you're going to lift up again, this time with the bottom knee, which is going to be the left knee. Lift the knees up through center, seeing if you can keep them tucked in together. All right, bring the knees into your chest, wrap the hands around the back of the knees, and then bring your forehead up to meet, squeezing into a tight little ball. And then lower your head and shoulders back down. Extend your legs out in front of you and come into your final resting pose, corpse pose. So again, if this is not comfortable for you, you always have your option of bending your knees, planting the feet on the floor, and allowing the knees to collapse into each other. Make those minor adjustments to bring yourself into more comfort and ease. That means sliding the shoulder blades underneath you, maybe rocking your head side to side, maybe lifting an arm and reaching out through the fingertips. Find what allows your body to release and give yourself that opportunity to fully get into this practice of corpse. Close your eyes if you haven't already. You can use your towel to cover up your eyes. And just allow yourself to really get heavy and feel grounded and anchored. And feel like you can surrender all of your weight into the ground. Now, this practice that we were working on today focused on releasing our back body. And when we release our back body physically, we do so much more symbolically, emotionally, mentally. And we learn to let go of everything that is behind us. And in this practice, the back body represents our past. You may find that after this practice, anything that it is that you'd like to release from your past, whether it was a trauma, a bad habit, whatever's weighing you down, that you may start to learn that it's okay to let go. And that we're able to let go of our baggage so that we can be more present with the now. And so continue to rest here. And I want you to just listen to the reading for today. Again, it is coming from the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. It was a snowy night, and Robert was recalling the time 2 springs ago when he was determined to paint the family room. Up early, he was out the door to the hardware store, gathering gallons of red, the wooden mixing sticks, the drop cloths, and the one-time brushes that always harden no matter what you soak them in. He mixed the paint outside and waddled to the door with a gallon in each hand, the drop cloth under his arm, and a wide brush in his mouth. He began to chuckle and is telling us what happened. I teetered there for minutes, trying to open the door, not wanting to put anything down. I was so stubborn. I had the door almost open when I lost my grip, stumbled backward, and wound up on the ground, red gallons all over me. At this point, he laughed at himself, as he has done many times, and watched the snow fall in silence. I thought of his little story the whole way home. Amazingly, we all do this, whether with groceries or paint, or with the stories we feel determined to share. We do this with our love, with our sense of truth, even with our pain. It's such a simple thing. But in a moment of ego, we refuse to put down what we carry in order to open the door. Time and time again, you're offered the chance to truly learn this. We cannot hold on to things and enter. We must put down what we carry, open the door, and then take up only what we need to bring inside. It is a basic human sequence. Gather, prepare, put down, enter. But failing as we do, we always have that second chance to learn how to fall, get up, and laugh. Take another full breath where you are. And then begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Make circles with wrists and ankles. Rock the head side to side. Stretch the arms up and overhead, giving yourself a full body reach. Reaching all the way away from your toes, all the way. Good. And exhale, release with a sigh. Carefully draw your knees into your chest. Wrap the arms around as you slowly tip over to your left side. And press the hands into the floor, extend your top leg, and ease your way up to a comfortable seat. And feel free to unmute yourself for the closing of the practice. Bring your hands together in your heart center. Bow your head softly forward. The light within me bows to the light within you. Namaste.
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 Thank you guys so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.